In the future, let's hope that the brain damage and trauma of circumcision doesn't create an event that causes us to destroy our planet and destroy intelligent life on Earth before we get to shoot for the stars. But, anyways, this is for future generations, or maybe 10, 15 years in the future, for them to see how crazy and absolutely the just how ubiquitous and influential this level of mass group psychosis is of the American genital mutilation culture. Here is Bloodstained Men is traveling in Virginia, and this is Candace Pope Ross. We are on the brink of World War III, and yet y'all worried about your long gone foreskin. Lord have mercy, do you? So, anyways, we're just going to read through this. I'm going to go through this really, read through each one. Brittany Canode. I saw this and about lost it. He was recording the cop talking to them like, geez, I would have donated bodies. I mean, damn. Where was this? Most of the world protects children from the abuse of children of circumcision stupidly. Says Jason Drew. Nice 15 likes right there, buddy. John Smith, a very influential activist, says baby is being violently sexually assaulted, tortured, brain damaged, and sexually crippled for life for doctors' profits, fathers' cowardice, and mommy's insecurities with the normal human anatomy. Fantastic. Even if you are a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. Mahatma Gandhi. Tanya Jones asks, what is the red stuff in front of their pants? Jonah Hart's Took says, they painted them red. I have so many questions for these guys. Tanya says, oh, I thought they'd just been circumcised. Heather says, I am friends with these guys. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Love you, Heather, there. Erica McBride says, it's a symbol that represents the wound that was inflicted on baby boys without medical necessity or consent. Most of the people in that organization are victims of genital mutilation. I love that. Mark Norris says, you Americans just cannot keep your hands off babies' junk. I said, or John Smith said, ask away. Let's start with some facts. The male prepuce is one half the total surface area, 18.4 square inches, contains 75% of the nerve endings, including both most sensitive parts, the frenulum and the ridge band. This girl is being circumcised. Lucky for you, American FGM died out. Notice the American spelling. There's two types of America. Tyra Lamb says, oh my God, these people need real jobs. Genital Autonomy Revolution says, human rights protests are a great use of paid time off. Great point. Erica McBride says, they have jobs. They plan these protests months in advance. People actually schedule time off to stand against the genital mutilation of innocent children. Mark Norris says, scum like you should keep your hands off a baby's pee-pee. I agree with you, Mark. Scumbags should keep their hands off the genitals of children. I said, I quit my 18-year business to protect children from psychopaths with knives full time. It's the most rewarding thing I could possibly do with my life. Hopefully you find something nearly as valuable as I did. This is foot binding was a mark of beauty. Americans say that about circumcision. Gary Reese says, their body, their choice. Right there with you, Mr. Reese. Lisa Witt mockingly says, he wants his foreskin back, Candace. Genital Autonomy Revolution replies with an awesome video. I will have to watch that later. Lisa Witt gives the little fake gif hug. Oh, it'll be alright. Arvid Yaganegi. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrect. Some are intact but care about human rights. Mark Norris says, he does. I say, I want the most pleasurable functional part of my genitals. How? TF. Are you surprised? Don't you want to keep yours? Wow. Jesus, help these poor men. Look at their profiles when you get a chance. Yeah, Lisa. Help us from what was you were protected from, that if it did happen to you, it would be the crime of the century. How about learn to help your ethical capabilities and your compassion for babies and your understanding of right and wrong and being able to justify your positions and opinions without shaming and, whatever. Okay, Santiago Pierna says, every day the human race pushes me closer to the edge of not wanting to be here, Skull. Human rights matter. Why should boys not be mutilated? Why should boys be mutilated? Arvid Yaganegi. I mean, sometimes when you get just these ridiculous things, it's just the easiest, the most common sense thing is that, like, look, he's got 12 likes there. The easiest, most common sense thing just makes the most sense sometimes. John Smith says, is it that hard to leave children's genitals TF alone? WTF? Jamie Perrier says, I hate everyone. Gladdy Pope Pope says love. Arvid Yaganegi says, human rights matter. Why should boys be mutilated? Someone says, probably your deep-rooted circumrage from when you were violently sexually assaulted, tortured, brain damaged, and mutilated by a sicko quack. Robin Barrett says, I'm glad you said this. Some people think they have a problem. The Ukraine and Israel are real scary problems for this country and the world. Sorry, I didn't get to give them a nice little logo here. Or emoji here. Our Arvid Yaganegi says, so we have world issues, agreed. But can't we also stop mutilating boys? Human rights matter. Why should boys be knife raped? Very good point. Robin, it's easy for you to say when it's not your most pleasurable part, you're being ripped off you by some idiot psychopathic quack for his Tesla payment. This is your privilege talking. In other countries, it happens to women, and it used to happen to women here. To women. It's only the Muslims doing FGM now in America, pretty much unhindered, since a federal law was struck down to protect the profits of American quacks, this person is referring to Dr. Nagarwala's case, which eviscerated the long and hard-fought anti-FGM national law that was passed in 1996. So Nagarwala's case by Judge Friedman was wiped out of court because apparently the federal government does not have the right to protect its citizens. Didn't we have a civil war about that the federal government does have the right to protect its citizens? Well, maybe my history is not so great. And then Maddie Cato says, they were here in Newport on the corners yesterday. They were in Newport News on the corners yesterday. Ooh, Newport News. Awesome. So awesome. We were finally exposing this barbaric, cowardly, disgusting, perverted form of child sexual abuse. Absolutely ridiculous, says Maddie Lassell. Lloyd Schofeld responds, circumcision causes permanent damage. To do this to an infant is an atrocity, a savage, brutal act. Dr. George Dennison, founder of Doctors Opposing Circumcision. Yaganegi says, so we have world issues, agreed, but can't we also stop mutilating boys? Human rights matter. Why should boys be knife raped? Right? Why should we? Why can't we protect our children? Crazy. Camille D. Davis, Camille Kensitsky. Guess what, Camille? All your ancestors, everybody where you got that name skis from, is probably Slavic. They all have their whole genitalia. All your all your relatives, they all have it. They all had it. And then Jason Drew rationally says, most of the world doesn't cut off healthy, lovely body parts. Catherine Renninger says, wow, I can't see that. Oh, that's like a melting face. I'm not sure about that one. Helen Barker says, I saw this. Could not believe what I was witnessing. Has this world gone crazy? Notice I don't have an ability to respond to these anymore. There's no reply button anymore. That's okay. I just want to show you guys this stuff because this is, one day in the future, you're going to be looking back on this video and be like, I cannot believe we sold humans stood them up on stages and sold them off at auctions. And sometimes we separated husband and wife and child and mother, brother and sister. We sold them to whatever abuse or slavery they were either destined to. Can't believe we ever did that. Can't believe we ever did that. One day, people will look at this and they will say, I cannot believe we did that. And they're going to say, how could people use these ridiculous excuses like hygiene or, oh, aren't there better things to do? I mean, we're attacking our children's genitals, with knives and sharp objects and torturing them and physically altering the function of their genitalia for life. I mean, hello, McFly. Let's get back to reality. Wow. Okay, rant closed. Okay, Yaganegi says, can't we just stop mutilating boys? Human rights matter. Jason Drew says, cutting off pleasurable, healthy, and productive body parts is crazy. Most of the world protects children's bodies. Mark Norris says, crazy. Okay, Taylor Cowan says, this picture is what breaks my heart. I had my sons done, and I just imagine how sad, lonely, scared, and how much in pain he was. Oh my God, that's heartbreaking. If you can hear that from a mother and not have your heart just kind of bleed a little bit, I mean, I know it's already pumping blood, but there's just some leakage there or something. Just not have your soul be just crushed a little bit. I don't know who you are as a human being. I really don't. I have no comprehension of how you think or feel, or even if you do feel. I don't understand, because my heart breaks reading that her heart is broken. I know that the baby suffered and, she made a mistake and, had she known better, though, she would have done better, just like my mom, just like many of our mothers, I don't think many do this nefariously to hurt their children, to get back at some patriarchal system or to punish their men or whatever. I don't think it's really, anyways, I don't want to get on a rant, but it's just so sad to hear a mother, regret mother in her pain, especially when they understand this. This is the thing. It takes, anybody could hide behind social ignorance, right? You could hide behind social ignorance about this and never admit that you really acknowledge that you really know that's wrong. You can hide behind the lies and go along and pretend that you're a good person easily. To admit that you made a mistake and that you hurt your child, and then to understand the gravity of it, to wrap your mind around it, that takes a very I have so much respect for the strength it takes to do that, even though you can't not do it, and still be a good mother. You know what I mean? You have to admit your mistakes, no matter how big or small they are. We all need to be able to admit our mistakes, or else we will never grow from them. Okay, Brittany Waltz Johnson says, where is this? Helen Barker says, Chester on the corner of 10th and Highway 1, better known as JD. John Smith says, everywhere USA, we will end the psychopathic sicko quackery of American child genital mutilation. We have a fine gentleman here. what does it say? Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. Really, I love that sign. I really do. I really love that sign. Taylor Cowan says, nah, because I watched a video on it and it's absolutely so sad and disgusting and heart-wrenching, made me question everything in life. That's how humans should, that's how any human should act to this. And that's what made me question everything in life. I mean, what a powerful statement that is. Because like how it's so ridiculous, it can't even be true. It's so wrong, so utterly, like doctors would never let something like this happen if it was really harmful. You know what I mean? Our parents would never have let this happen to us if it was really harmful. Our entire society cannot maintain a taboo on the actual anatomy, structure, and function of the science of one of the most obvious parts of our body. I don't know what else to say. Anyways, Candace Pope Ross says, with proper education, sure, there's no reason to cut it off, but nowadays, adult people at that, don't even know how to wash their own ass properly. I love I'm laughing because I know what this meme says, and I'm going to read part of it, and I'll leave the rest to your own imagination, or fill in the blank. But Lloyd said, Lloyd, you're so funny. And this guy, so in the picture, in the mime, it says, my D is cleaner when you cut off part of it, question mark, does that work with your P? Oh, that's funny. I mean, think about it. Like, if you have dirty genitals and you cut part of it off, does that clean the other parts? It's just so utterly ridiculous. And to think this is literally based off of male body shaming, right? That's why we think we're dirty. Ironically, in the Quran, it says that Allah made us perfectly numerous times. There's no flaw in his creation. He congealed us from heaven and earth and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Numerous times say it's perfect. And then in the Hadith, all of a sudden, ooh, this is dirty. This is dirty. It's ooey. It's dirty. It's shameful. It's going to make you sin. It totally contradicts the Quran, and then tells you to cut it off. And in the Quran it says, do not alter Allah's creation. I'm going on another side tangent here. It says, do not alter Allah's creation. It even says that Satan would try to convince you to cut off cattle's ears, but that Allah's creation is perfect and to not change it. I mean, literally says that in the book. And the fact that Muhammad was never circumcised, and the fact that circumcision is not mentioned in the book, and the fact that in the book it says nothing is left out of this book. I mean, anyways, let's get back to this. Candace Pope Ross, of course, it's the cutter bingo type thing. When one thing you say is just so utterly ridiculous, you're going to go to the next most utterly ridiculous thing, or you're going to try to reverse shame, or you're going to project your own, your projection. I'm just really fascinated by this, seeing projection so much in action in this, it's like literally the person that's doing the harm is like telling you you're the person doing the harm. It's so weird. It's like it almost stops you in your track, and you're just like, what do you mean? You're the person it's like, I don't know. It's like the police pulled you over and now you're chasing the police. I don't understand. I don't know what Jesus. Wow. We are passionate about this, huh? Well, yeah. I mean, why would we not be passionate about extreme abuse on children that's been medicalized by pseudoscience nonsense that doesn't even make legitimate halfway decent sense, that shouldn't fool a 5th grade biology student, let alone a medical doctor? Lloyd Schofield, I would blow that up. It's a really good statement, but I don't want to lose these because it might collapse them. Anyways, maybe we'll come back up. Candace, I had no idea so many people were so passionate about the foreskin. And Lloyd ingeniously replies with, imagine a superstition so powerful that people will injure their own children to obey it. That is circumcision. And then this really powerful statement by Nicholas Gutierrez. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong, I guess. I'm sorry, Nick. Nico. Okay, it was like losing your eyesight, like eating food and not being able to taste food anymore. Right? I mean, it doesn't get more clear than that. An adult who went through it himself and know before and after. Okay, Allison Morris Hall says, knowing they couldn't clean it right if they had the foreskin still. Knowing they couldn't clean it right if they had the foreskin still. Oh, this is why I started this recording. Allison Morris Hall. Wow. I mean, this is like just misandrous, body shaming, just like as raunchy and just low down, dirty, evil as you could possibly be. Like, this is like, I just can't even fathom how somebody, a woman, could say this, like how. And then you have this Jamie Puryear. Ooh, like this, really? Oh, I didn't get. How did she miss the angry emoji from me? How? Okay, genital autonomy revolution. This is some of the it's talking about. These are some of the things your son can do. Be a doctor. Be an astronaut. Can't clean himself. And you got Gina Suann Brumley says, you and your family must be morons with no thumbs or access to running water. So easy, my toddler can do it. 19 likes on that one. Wow, that was a good one, Gina Brumley. Very good. Very good. Okay, Luann Lester. If an adult can't manage a couple extra steps, sliding it back and forth to clean, he's going to have big problems with what's still left in more than one ways. Yeah, like, once you know how to clean your right hand, you know how to clean your left hand. If you know how to clean your I don't know, your feet, you know how to clean your hands. If you know how to wash your upper body, you know how to wash your lower body. You know what I mean? It's all the same principles. There's nothing new that you have to once you pull this back, there's a whole nother trick involved. There's nothing like additional that you have to worry about. In fact, the thing that you have to worry about is not using soap too much, because too much soap dries it out. It's why you don't have women shoving bars of soap or soaping themselves, sudsing up, their internal areas, because they're not supposed to, right? It'll actually cause problems, and this can cause yeast infections and recurrent UTIs and yeast infections. Anyways, Yaganegi says, such sexist hate speech. America is so primitive. Wash, don't amputate. Right? I mean, so primitive. And how can you... This is complete sexist hate speech. I mean, this is the definition of it. They can't clean it right if they had the foreskin still. I mean, lady, you have a foreskin. So do you, Jamie. So do you. So, Mark Norris said, do you clean your blood gushing vagina? I love that. That's hilarious. Let me love that. John Smith says 5,548 mammal species all have a penile sheaths. If your hamster, pig, dog, and cows can keep it clean, so can a human. Hygiene is the lowest IQ excuse. Pro circumcision. Your problem is obvious. Got a person with his head up its ass. And then Mark Norris says the lowest excuse. And there's got a picture of the size of the foreskin, which is about the size of the average large iPhone. Blake Hatton says, they better talk to their mama about this problem. Arvid Yaganegi says, human rights matter. Can we also stop mutilating boys? Mark Norris says, Mom, Dad, just show me on this ruler how much of my penis you let the doctor chop off when he circumcised me in the hospital. Yeah. One day you will all have to answer to your children. One day real soon, because this is blowing up all over the place. So one day you will have to answer to your children. John Smith said, I did. My mama is a trauma therapist. She cried, hugged me, and shook and apologized. But the quacks lied and took me without even explaining. My mother gets a pass, buddy. Hope your mother is halfway as aware and compassionate as my mother. America has a child abuse problem. It's called circumcision. Craig Heilman says, hey, we all need a voice. LOL. Candace Pope mockingly hashtags foreskins matter. Craig Hellman writes, not a pound, not my tip. I think he's I'm not sure. Is Craig Heilman, is he being sarcastic here? The LOL? I think it is. I should probably change this to a let's see. I don't really like it. Just go with the like. The angriness. I'm not really angry right now. Kelly Jean Beeler. Looking at it, laughing. Wow. Lucky you, Kelly Jean Beeler. So John Smith says, what do you find funny about men speaking out against our torture and abuse as babies when we couldn't protect ourselves? And this picture says, protect him with a knife. Don't perfect him with a knife. Or protect him with your life. Don't perfect him with a knife. And a beautiful baby just looking up into his father's eyes, look as his protector. Children depend on us. They look up to us. They need us. They love us. It's crazy. Oh my. I'm just kind of not angry, but that makes me angry. Mrs. Kelly Campbell Fields. Oh my, laughing. What's funny about trying to protect babies? Larissa Black asks, what's funny about it? I love that. What's funny about sexually assaulting babies to you? Oh, this is a good image. I'll maybe pull it up later. Ken Pope says, that's the dumbest crap I ever seen. Lloyd Schofield responds with that's Rosemary Romberg, one of the best, most eloquent activists you'll ever meet or ever hear about. You won't meet her because she has been passed away, but she is was a phenomenal woman. We met at the 2018 American Academy of Pediatrics protest, and I stood outside with her, and she wanted to know if it was gonna end, and because she thought it would have been over by now. A lot of them did. A lot of them thought that just as soon as the message got out that it would take like wildfire and take over the country. They just really believed that, and I guess it never really happened the way we thought it would. They thought it would, sadly. But yeah, she asked me, and I said, we're gonna take this. We're gonna win this. Mark my words, we will end this. I promised her. So I owe it to her. Anyways, I think it's, what was her website? Peaceful Parenting? Oh, she wrote a book. It's online. It's free. You got to read it. It's just phenomenal. Anyways, Erica McBride says, tell me your missing parts of your penis without telling me. Human rights matter. Can't we also stop mutilating boys? And I said, you're so right. Mutilating boys for ridiculous pseudoscience nonsense excuses that amount to cutting off feet to prevent stub toes is dumb AF. So women get pissed when you try to control their bodies, but women do it every day to their newborn sons. Pound hypocrites. Question circumcision. That's a bloodstained men's sign. Erica McBride says, so the genital mutilation of innocent children that happens every day in your own state doesn't matter, but we can care about the power and money-hungry government starting wars and killing innocent people, and also care about the genital mutilation of innocent children. Are you the only person who can care about one thing at a time? Are you only a person who can care about one thing at a time? And John Smith gives her the clap and loves. Gina Brumley says, Candace, you don't understand because you still have your foreskin, like, most likely. Otherwise, you understand what an injustice it is to amputate a functioning part of a child's genitals. 13 likes. We love you, Mama Bears, and women and activists who care about our abuse by psychopathic sicko quacks. Man, this John Smith guy is freaking amazing. So is this Arpad Yaganagi. Arvid Yaganegi. So we have world issues agreed, but we also but can't we also stop mutilating boys? Human rights matter. Why should boys be knife raped? Jason Drew says they're fighting to protect children, idiot. Why is this not liked right here? This is a very loved, yeah. Rachel Pohl says, I'm sure you still have yours. If you didn't, maybe you'd understand. Right? It's just the irony and the hypocrisy is just so it's so ridiculous. Larissa Black, so I think I've read some of your statements before. I always know they're always good. She always has something really good to say. So there's circumcision scar and trauma just magically disappear when world events are occurring. I didn't realize it worked that way. You were not born into a culture that straps you spread eagle to slice parts off your middle within hours after birth. What would you even know about it? This is literally the reason for all these wars. All genital mutilation cultures are more violent and mentally dysfunctional. Really good point, because I heard there was a statement that like almost all wars since whatever are one circumcising nation against another, and oftentimes one circumcising nation against another circumcising nation, like right now in the Middle East. So crazy, wanting to protect all children from psychopaths with knives attacking their genitals. There's a picture of a girl being circumcised. Look at her face. It breaks my heart. I'm sorry. I just can't handle that. It's just so... I can't believe fellow humans just don't hold childhood as to be sacred. That the child, protecting our children to raise them to the best potential that they could possibly reach in their lives, the most happy that we can make them, is not sacred. I just don't even fathom how a person could have a child and not hold that sacred. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Vincent Coletta, maybe we were on the verge of World War III because many men are met with horrible violence after being born? Question. Wow, really good point. The foreskin prepuce contains fine touch nerves like in your fingers and provides protection of the gland's head, keeping it soft and sponge-like, and an effort to ensure everything works properly. Only 1 in 16,667 intact males will have a problem with their foreskin. 117 babies die from circumcision a year in the United States, which equates to 9 in 100,000 babies that die each year from a cosmetic surgery. Just a comparison of 616,000 women, 2,084 of them will get breast cancer. In the same number of men, 17 will get breast cancer. Infant circumcision literally kills 2 boys for every adult spared circumcision. Infant circumcision literally kills 2 boys for every adult spared circumcision and ruins the lives of 667 for every adult. I'm not really sure what he's saying. Spared circumcision. Circumcision literally kills for every adult spared circumcision. Okay. Men have lost their penis glands and suffer from deformity caused by the operation performed while they were infants. It isn't right that these children pay the price for a decision that their parents made, a decision that should be left up to the owner of the pea. Even those who survive still have problems, even though they are seldom discussed. It is for these reasons that the person who has the use of the pea should be the person who decides what happens to it. His body, his choice. In parentheses, we conclude that non-therapeutic circumcision performed on otherwise healthy children and infants has little to no high-quality medical evidence to support its overall benefit. Moreover, it is associated with rare but avoidable harm and even occasional deaths. From the perspective of the individual boy, there is no medical justification for performing a circumcision prior to an age that he can assess the known risks and potential benefits and choose or withhold informed consent himself. PubMed. There's the elephant in the hospital, which you can YouTube. If you've never seen that video, it's free on YouTube. Urologist talks about circumcision. Pause that. Maybe type that in. Robert Van Houw, MD, MS, professor and interim chair of pediatrics, Central Michigan University College of Medicine. Oh, I think that's Van Houw is it's a really fantastic pediatrician. This one doesn't need... Oh, that Dropbox. I don't know what that is. That looks like something that's pretty cool. Learn how sex is supposed to work, such as natureantenna.com. Babies experience pain like adults. How to properly care for a natural penis. Man, look at this. This is a great bit of information here. They didn't tell you the function of the foreskin, but they did lie to you and tell you they had health benefits. Did they also tell you it pays for their house, their cars, and their daughters and their children's college? Is it illegal to sell an organ taken from a patient, but they still do it? Foreskin for sale, $169 per 500 micrograms is equal to $36,000, $338,000 per gram is equal to 9,581,962 ounces. Wow, you're teaching me some cool stuff here, brother. This is awesome stuff. I've never looked at some of this stuff. Mutilated men feel less sexual pleasure, obviously. Duh. My numbers and claims are supported by these studies. Canada's study said no HIV benefit to MGM. Dutch study, society, and their stance on RIC, routine infant circumcision. Surgeons of British Columbia. This is such good stuff here. Doctors around the world critique AAP's circumcision opinion. The document outlines the death caused by circumcisions in the United States. All the statements made by the medical organizations about circumcision, they are cited. Functions of the foreskin. Breast cancer kills more men than anything related to the foreskin. American Cancer Society says circumcision does nothing to affect cancer rates. Circumcised men have 450% greater chance of ED. All the common myths about circumcision and how they are dispelled. Boy wants to be a girl after botched circumcision. There are many cases like this. However, boy wants to be a girl after botched circumcision. There are many cases like this. I'm not sure what that's about. However, they usually occur in infants who cannot express themselves in words. Serious and fatal complications after neonatal circumcision. No evidence to support male genital cutting reduces HIV transmission. U.S. Navy study shows that circumcision has no effect on HIV or STD infection rates. Circumcision is painful. Men upset about being circumcised against their will. I'm one of them. FGM victims speak out against circumcision. I think that's Soraya Myre, if I remember right. I've seen that video. Visual comparison of a natural penis versus a circumcised one. Warning, pictures of the genitals. Oh, look at this. Great. I mean, just what awesome post that was. Who is this? We have to talk to them. This is such a great post. Look at how much great information is in there. Vincent Corletta. Awesome work. Let's keep going. We're almost done. Ashley Dahl, thank you for raising awareness. They are the bloodstained men and their friends, and they are protesting to end routine infant circumcision. All children, regardless of sex, deserve legal protection from non-therapeutic genital cutting. No major medical organization on earth recommends infant circumcision. It removes a functional body part. Some countries are trying to ban the practice, and around 70% of the men worldwide are not circumcised. The United States is the only developed nation that continues to cut its children at such a high rate due to tradition and a misguided belief that it is healthier. Yet this is simply not the case in other countries. Please take a moment to learn why more and more parents are respecting their children's right to genital integrity and keeping them intact. Look at that. Wow. Wow, that was so good. So good, Ashley. What a great, yeah, that was really good. Really positive note there. I really like the way you wrote that. Okay, Lauren Albert Salomons. It's more about informing parents and protecting the next generation. Love that. So agree, Lauren. Thank you so much. Jay Mingjinga, I know we've actually had Jay on we had him on when I was doing Zoom calls. But anyways, Jay is a phenomenal intactivist and speaker in Kenyan, I think. If I'm getting it right, Jay, I think you're Kenyan. But anyways, if I'm wrong, I apologize. You are talking and laughing because you never experienced that pain. Imagine you were born today and tomorrow a doctor scuts off your... Gross, right? Circumcision is not okay to any male child. His penis is fine the way it is. Right, 100%. I can't win with all these comments, all because of foreskin. Brittany, you have foreskin. If someone cut it off of you, it would be extremely painful and would affect your sexual function for life. So you would be mad if someone cut off your foreskin. Well, guess what? Your foreskin is very small compared to ours. It's minuscule in function compared to ours. Its sensory input is not nearly as important. So ours is actually the main sensory tissue, whereas yours is the clitoral glands as well as the clitoral hood. But our glands is nearly insensitive. It doesn't have the fine touch nerve endings that our frenulum and ridge band have. So we are different. And yes, it is very important that we keep the most pleasurable part of our body. In fact, this is the juiciest, most enjoyable, most pleasurable, best part of our body. So, of course, it would be like someone stealing your grandmother's wedding ring or something that she gave you on her deathbed. You know what I mean? I mean, this is his value. Okay, yeah, that's a small little ring. Maybe it costs a couple $100, but guess what? It's my prepuce. It's my body part. It's my most sensitive part. And I would love to have known what I was supposed to experience that every other man, that 99.9999999% of my ancestors who have ever lived know, what 70% of the world today know. I want to know what they know. I want to know what it's like to be a whole man and to have the full experience of my body. And for you to deny that with me and make it trivial and say, "Oh, you're fighting for foreskin." Like, I mean, yeah, it's not fore aft; it's the middle half, and it is far more than just a foreskin. That's just it's almost a derogatory term. It is the most pleasurable, sensitive, valuable part of our body. Amber Gonzalez, it's so easy for them to just, that's what I was about to say, LOL. I wish this many people were as passionate about grocery prices. Candace, again, it's really easy when you're sitting there on a protected prepuce. But if someone was to snatch you up and do the same things that you're trivializing and laughing about being done to babies and men and us because it happened to us, you would be at the sheriff's office screaming your heads off, demanding they find the perpetrator, demanding that justice be served, demanding that they suffer the fullest extent of the law, demanding that they don't get paroled too early or whatever. You would be livid. You wouldn't even be able to sleep at night anymore. I mean, your head would explode. You just wouldn't even be able to handle life. And here you are just making fun of us for standing up for our human rights. I have a scar. I have trauma damage because of this. I have my personality has been altered. I live with PTSD because of this. And yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is the most important thing I could possibly be doing with my life. And I don't understand how you don't understand. I really hope, Candace Ross, that you grow as a person. And one day you realize that this is not some trivial thing. It's not some thing to make fun of. And nobody should ever do this to a child. Ever. Rebecca Williams says, I know older men that had to have it done when they were older due to infection, when they couldn't control their bladder anymore. He said it was the worst pain he's been through, wishes it would have done as a baby so he wouldn't remember. Oh my God. Wow. It's almost like they write this script and they send it to a bunch of people and then they just all repeat it. I mean, this is almost word for word. You almost get this almost on every Pro Cutter thread. And it's the same repeating problem. I know a guy who had to do this and he said it was the worst pain he ever experienced. Why do you think it's the worst pain he ever experienced? Why? Because it's the most pleasurable part of his body. And if he's 70 to 80 years old and he got to experience the most pleasurable part of his body for 70 to 80 years old, and he has to have a surgery at 70 when he can't even get it up no more, and that's a problem, and he would rather have had it as a baby and miss all those years with the most pleasurable part of his body. I mean, this is so ludicrous. It's like Looney Tune bin, like off your rocker, like, up is down, black is white. Common sense is the rarest thing on the planet. It's just, I can't fathom. Well, first off, these men that are getting infections, it's due to the inequality of the care workers. And so the care workers are not properly cleaning the men. Because if you do the same thing with ladies, guess what? They get even more infections. Does that make it reasonable so we should do FGM? We could bring back FGM. They started FGM at the same time they started MGM. They started the United States of America has women alive today that were cut in the 60s by the same doctor that cut their brothers. They even have patented chopping stuff like they do for us boys. The Gomco clamp, the Morgan clamp, and all this other stuff. They even had clamps for little girls in America that they had patents for. I mean, so, Rebecca, first off, you don't know any man that have ever needed a prepuce amputation ever in your entire life. What he needed was proper care. And rather than train and educate our care workers and our nurses and hospital staff and elderly care staff, instead of doing that, train them like they do in Europe, because Europe doesn't have these issues at all. Mutilate babies, torture, mutilate, violate babies, and take away their human rights, alter their brain development, damage their brain, because this is a trauma. This is if it's so painful for him, you think it's easier on a baby so he wouldn't remember it? The earlier in life this happens, the worse the repercussions are to the brain development. Psychologists call the period after a baby is born up to 3 years of age is called the critical period. The earlier in the critical period, the more important the influence of the trauma, the more influential the trauma. So, yeah, I mean, this is just, it's just so psychotic. So this is mass psychosis. To think that some old guy getting an infection, because he was improperly cared for by care workers, is justification to mutilate, 80% of babies in America is just mind-bogglingly just outrageous. It's just Twilight Zone level of ludicrousness, and this is why I have to record this stuff, because eventually when when the social norms behind this just self-destruct, and they are on their way, well on their way in our society, because this cannot withstand the light of reason, the light of ethics, the light of light. Right? As soon as you turn the light on in the circumcision room, it is going to destroy circumcision. It will. And it's I just want people to be able to look back and just be like, oh my God, I cannot believe that people thought this way, that people said these things, that people use this as justification to do these horrible things. They won't even be able to wrap their minds around it, hopefully, because they'll be good, better people. I hope. I hope if circumcision hasn't already created the mental damage ubiquitous in our culture that really destroys human life on Earth, which it really possibly could, maybe even all life on Earth. I mean, maybe we can even wipe out the cockroaches. I know it takes a lot of education to understand what I mean by how could this create such devastation or destruction. But this is an early life trauma at that critical period, and this literally alters the brain development. It changes the brain structure. It orients the brain to be more reactive and expectant of trauma in the future. Trauma begets trauma. And trauma-damaged people, people with PTSD, will themselves create more trauma. Right? So you do this to babies, you just sparked the fucking flame. You sparked the flame. I'm going to read to you some statements. Let's see this. Psychological damage. This is Carl Menninger, psychiatrist. What's done to children, they will do to society. You torture and abuse a child, they will torture and abuse society. A whole life can be shaped by an old trauma, remembered or not. Lemore Terror, MD, child psychologist. Justin Call, MD, pediatrician, says, in response to circumcision, the baby cries a helpless, panically, breathless, high-pitched cry or lapses into a semi-coma. Both of these states are abnormal states in the newborn. Newborn screaming becomes so shrill and heart-wrenching, where he screams until his lungs have nothing more to offer, so his mouth becomes stuck in a silent, breathless, crimson-faced gape of anguish. What we're doing to our newborns is nothing short of barbaric. I heard the screams they were talking about. I could hear it outside the room and down the hall in the lobby. And I buried my head into Nicholas's dad's arm because I couldn't stand it. And all I wanted to do in that moment was go get my baby out of that room. I still haven't forgiven myself for not. I will never forget the way he looked when they brought him back to me. It took me several minutes to calm him down, which is very much unlike him. He was such a good and happy baby when he first came home, but now he wouldn't latch on or nurse readily. In fact, we have some studies on that. He looked lifeless and his face was so red and blotchy from screaming and crying. They told me this is normal, but it's not. A real mother knows this. I will never forget the way his little penis looked. So bloody and raw, like a giant wound in his first diaper change. I cringed at every diaper changed. It broke my heart every time he flinched and cried when I'd wipe him or put ointment on as instructed. It was awful. Still, I defended my decision vehemently for years, partly because I really believed it really was the best thing, and partly because I didn't believe I had made. I didn't want to believe. I didn't want. Sorry, let me put that in there. Want to believe that I'd made such a permanent mistake that only my son would have to pay for. I permanently altered his genitals without his consent. But I really thought I was doing the best thing at the time. I wish I had known better. I mean, that is just heart-wrenching. That the mothers are just so being manipulated by this medical establishment, so being lied to. I mean, it is that the doctors, the ones that are required to give proper informed consent to do the least amount of, to do no harm, first off, to do the least amount of treatment necessary to create the required or necessary result. So anyways, thank you for listening to this video. I just wanted to make another video about this because I think that it's so important for people in the future to look back and just see how strange and absolutely just, I mean, just almost mind-bogglingly unrealistic. I mean, just it doesn't make any sense. It's just so far outside of what seems normal and acceptable in reality that it's almost too evil to be true. It's too wrong to be true. You know, like it's like the winning lottery ticket smacking you in the face. You know, that's too good to be true. But this is almost too evil to be true. So people just can't even wrap their minds around it being true. Like how could it be that doctors are doing this if it's so wrong and so bad? You know, right? How could they just get through? How could this just continue? But that is the real question, is like, how could it ever start? How could it not be exposed? You know, how does human psyche so easily influence that it creates this almost like a partition in its brain where this is separate from the attack that it would normally apply to any other similar situation? Okay, you see the correct response with FGM. People in our mind, in our culture, and they react with horror to FGM, as do I. But then when it comes to MGM, it's just completely their natural response, because FGM and MGM are very, very similar. I don't care what people tell you or what you've heard. I'm not going to get into that on this video, but you know, there are 4 types of FGM. 3 of them are somewhat similar or less than harmful than MGM. One of them is worse, but there's also different types of MGM. So the worst type of MGM would be castration, which could arguably worse than the worst type of FGM. But the point is it's not the competition. The point is they're both wrong. And the problem is that we should all have the same reaction to both of them. Each one of them is a horrific human rights violation. If we love our children, if we care about our children, then we should protect all of our children, not just some of our children. Not just the ones that share the same sex organ as we have. Not just the ones that our society deems as more valuable. We should protect all children, especially from medical quackery. Thanks for listening.